Insect Glaive might be one of the hardest and sometimes the most frustrating weapon in Monster Hunter Wilds. In this video I'll tell you what I think makes people quit the Insect Glaive. And by the end of the video, what I think Capcom might be able to do to fix it in the expansion for Monster Hunter Wilds.
I think you can't get a finished product without all the components coming together, right?
I often hear that people just cannot get used to the mechanics of the weapon and just give up and try something else. In this video, I'll tell you what I think makes people quit the Insect Glaive. I regularly play with a group of friends, and they sometimes hear me rage at this weapon. Half of the time, my Kinsect is out there going to Starbucks, grab a coffee, instead of getting me the extract I actually need. And the other half, I use my aerial mobility to dodge an incoming attack, only to still get swatted out the air like a fly. My friends just say, go play a better weapon, but I can't, because I love the Insect Glaive. But these are small examples of why I think so many players quit the weapon early. The Insect Glaive is hard to play. Now before the comments explode, let me clarify something.
Wait, hold on.
I'm not saying the Insect Glaive is complex. What I'm saying is that the Insect Glaive is hard to play. There's a big difference between a weapon being complex and a weapon simply feeling hard to use. Because most of the difficulty with the Insect Glaive doesn't come from complicated combos or charging your weapon or whatever else you can think of. It comes from the constant friction between you, your Kinsect, when you're trying to get the right extracts, your inability to consistently avoid incoming attacks, and having to deal with input delays. The biggest issue with the Insect Glaive, and where a lot of players stop and cannot get used to it, is the Kinsect and the extract management. Insect Glaive is heavily dependent on the extracts you gather to maximize your damage, which increases your attack speed, mobility, defensive skills, and overall flow. So you constantly want to maintain your buffs at all times. The difference between the Insect Glaive and weapons like the longsword or dual blades, for example, is that simply attacking the monster naturally builds your GOG with those weapons. But with the Insect Glaive, you're completely dependent on your Kinsect getting the correct extracts. Just attacking the monster will not always give you what you need. You need precise movement and you need to hit specific parts to constantly maintain all your extracts. And when this doesn't go your way, it can be completely frustrating. While you have a charged Kinsect shot, it doesn't guarantee getting all the extracts. Maybe you miss and hit the wrong body part. I'm not alone in saying it sometimes takes real effort to get all extracts. When everything works, the weapon feels amazing. But when it doesn't, it feels absolutely terrible.
This is really getting out of hand.
Nothing kills the momentum of the Insect Glaive more than finally getting in your combo, using the rising spiral slash, losing your extracts, and then suddenly spending the next 15 minutes chasing colors around the monster again. With the difficulty of 10-star monsters and their increased speed, this is especially true, and the frustration can build up very quickly. Especially when your Kinsect decides it wants to hit literally anything except the body part you're aiming at. I swear there are moments where I'm aiming directly at the leg, trying to get the white extract, and somehow my Kinsect still comes back with orange. Or when the monster has a tiny head and getting a red extract suddenly becomes the hardest challenge in the entire hunt. And this is where I think a lot of players quit the weapon. Because the frustration doesn't come from learning combos. It comes from fighting your own mechanics just to maintain the weapon baseline performance. Another issue, especially for controller players, is aiming the Kinsect itself. On PC, I imagine it feels easier with a mouse, but on controller you're trying to precisely aim with the right stick during monster movement. And sometimes it genuinely feels like the Kinsect has its own plans for the hunt. If you played the Insect Glaive long enough, you absolutely had moments where your Kinsect is just gone. You have no idea where it is, and then suddenly it flies back on your screen and you're sitting wondering, why the hell was my Kinsect over there? Kinsect management itself is not a bad mechanic. I actually think it's what gives the Insect Glaive its identity. The real problem is lack of consistency and control. For newer players especially, it generally feels RNG heavy, and honestly Monster Hunter already has enough RNG systems as it is. And when maintaining extracts is tied so heavily to your damage and mobility, that inconsistency becomes frustrating very quickly. Now to be fair, the more you play the weapon, the easier it gets. But most people give up way before that happens. You learn the monster patterns, extract locations, and a way to manage the Kinsect more efficiently. But for newer players, that early experience can be incredibly frustrating. Some quick examples of what I mean. And tell it to charge Radau, hoping to pierce and get all extracts. Instead, it moves sideways, hits the wing, but nothing else. Next example is even weirder. I charge the Kinsect again, release, and it goes straight up for whatever reason. I know why this happens. People that don't know, I basically tell the Kinsect to charge, so it does that in a straight line from the position of the Kinsect, not the position of the hunter. The mistake I make here is I didn't recall the Kinsect first and then charge, making it charge from the position of the hunter. Let's go to the next problem I have. Arial attacks. Arial attacks are another major issue I have with the Insect Glaive. While it's really good for mounts, it just doesn't feel like a core part of your kit. You use it to get a mount, but not really to deal damage. When new players see the Insect Glaive in the air and think that looks insane and then figure out it's mostly for show,
You've gotta be kidding me. Seriously?
that doesn't help people keep playing the weapon. This is especially true for veterans of the series who remember older Monster Hunter games where aerial combat was far more prominent in the weapon's playstyle. The entire meta for the Insect Glaive in base game Monster Hunter Wilds revolves around grounded combos combined with skills like maximum might. Right now, grounded gameplay simply performs better, and that feels really disappointing in a way that you cannot use all of your abilities, because aerial combat should be one of the weapon's biggest strengths, not something you occasionally use to get a mount. The bigger problem I have with the aerial movement is that it also doesn't consistently function as real damage mitigation. There are so many moments where you perfectly vault over an incoming attack, only still get hit by a ground explosion or getting swatted out of the air like a fly, because apparently the hitboxes are reaching for the stars. At that point I generally start asking myself, what is even the point of being airborne? Okay, we have the backward vault, which helps, but it also puts a lot of distance between you and the monster, which for normal hunts is fine, but it's not always enough, and the animation is long so you still can get hit. Although, to be fair, we still look cooler than any other weapon while doing it. It makes aerial gameplay feel more like a visual gimmick than an actual combat advantage. And I genuinely think this is another reason why players stop using the Insect Glaive. The weapon looks like it's an agile aerial weapon, but the current state of the weapon often punishes you for trying to actually play that way. And just to be clear, I'm not saying you cannot play aerial focused combat right now. You absolutely can. But if you do, your hunt times will usually end up several minutes longer compared to optimized grounded gameplay. Let's get into damage mitigation. Another thing that makes Insect Glaive difficult, especially for newer players. With the introduction of 10-star monsters, and in some cases this also applies to 9-star monsters, you can get 1-shot or 2-shot if you mistime things. In some cases with certain monsters, they have 2 attacks that follow up on each other, and if you get caught by the first one, you will get hit by the second one as well, meaning an insta-card for most builds. Because compared to a lot of other weapons in Monster Hunter Wilds, Insect Glaive has very few panic button options when things go wrong.
Then what do we do?
Weapons like longsword, lance, charge blade, sword and shield, and even dual blades all have way to counter, guard, perfect dodge, offset attacks, or quickly avoid incoming damage. Insect Glaive really doesn't have that luxury. Most of the time, your defense comes down to either timing a normal dodge correctly, if you can deal with the input delay, using positioning to avoid getting hit entirely, or attempt an offset attack at the right moment. Talking about offsets compared to other weapons is extremely hard to pull off for the Insect Glaive. Even after the August update that made it better, it still feels very unreliable. One hunt you're hitting all offsets, the next hunt you won't hit any. Now technically, Rising Spiral Slash does give you hyper armor during your upward spin, but the problem is that you first need to commit to a strong descending slash before you can even access it. And that becomes dangerous because strong descending slash locks you in the animation for quite a while, which if you commit at the wrong time, there's a very good chance you get punished for it. And I think this is another area where Insect Glaive feels harder to play than people initially expect, because with many other weapons, mistakes often still leave you with defensive options. Maybe you can perfect dodge, maybe you can guard, or perfect guard. But with the Insect Glaive, if you mess up your positioning or commit to the wrong animation, and with 10-star monsters, that usually means stopping your aggression completely just to recover a massive chunk of lost health. And while we're talking about defense, let's talk about input lag. For newer players, this might not be on your radar yet, but veterans know exactly what I'm talking about. When you're pressing dodge on your controller, there's an input delay before the game actually registers that input. And when a 10-star monster is moving at full speed, those milliseconds are the difference between a clean dodge and eating a full attack to the face. For veterans, this is probably the #1 thing Capcom needs to fix. I'll just give you a prime example that every Insect Glaive player faces, especially with 10-star monsters. Here I'm close to Arkveld. I mistime the Rising Spiral Slash. In my drop down, I get hit by the tail, which can happen. Then I choose to charge and commit and Arkveld send out his attack. I get hit. From that moment, I know I'm screwed, because I'm getting hit in the middle of his attack. His final attack has too large of an area, so I cannot dodge to the side and I cannot go up in the air due to animation length, and it probably will still hit me. If I had a shield, I would guard or perfect guard, and in most cases I would be fine. With the Insect Glaive, not so much. So let's talk what I think Capcom can do to improve the Insect Glaive so it's easier for people to play without removing the skill ceiling. Don't get me wrong, I don't want to use a weapon, that is no fun, but I would like a weapon with just a tiny bit less frustration. Let's go to it one by one, starting with extract management. And if you watch my streams, you know I think Capcom already accidentally showed us a solution. The Sophia fight is probably one of the best matchups for the Insect Glaive in the entire game. And the main reason is the monstrous size and its extract accessibility. For the Insect Glaive, size does matter, but I won't get into that now. Sophia has 2 locations where you can grab a red extract. So instead of desperately chasing a tiny monster head around the arena for the entire hunt, you actually have breathing room to maintain your buffs. Not constantly repositioning, but reliable ways to get your extracts, either by charging your Kinsect or attacking with focus mode. And this alone makes the weapon feel dramatically smoother to play and makes the hunt way more fun. It's one of the main reasons this hunt is one of my favorites in the game. It's just less frustrating. Compare that to Utuna's tiny head for the red extract, Raydao for orange extract, which my Kinsect just refuses to get, or Arkveld for the white extract, which for some reason my Kinsect never gets easily. Those situations can be so frustrating, and it starts feeling like an obstacle course Capcom decide especially to annoy Insect Glaive players. So my first ask for the expansion is simple. Follow the Sophia philosophy more consistently. Give monsters multiple viable extract locations, especially for the red extract. Because the extract system itself isn't the problem. I actually love that system. It is what gives the Insect Glaive its identity. Problem is when inconsistency turns a skill-based mechanic into an RG frustration simulator. Prime example here is Kogmagios, which I hate, because the head for some reason doesn't have a red extract, only the wings. And when you hit the wings, you're never able to get more extracts while doing your Rising Spiral Slash. Not completely true, there are some ways, but it's really difficult to do. The design feels they sat there thinking, how can we annoy Insect Glaive players?
Chief, what is this?
There's also a secondary fix here, and I think this one should be carefully balanced, which would be allowing Kinsects to slightly prioritize whichever extracts you're currently missing. Not just automatically collect it, just nudge the priority. Because yes, push that too far, it becomes broken immediately, but there is absolutely room to make extract gathering feel more intentional without removing the skill requirement entirely. Not sure if it's even implementable, but I would bring Insect Glaive closer to the weapons that just need to attack to fill their cog. And while we're talking about Kinsect, can we please do something meaningful with Kinsect powder? Because right now powders exist and that's about it. Completely ignored, at least by me. They don't add meaningful decisions to combat. They don't change how you approach the hunt. Capcom has a genuinely interesting mechanic sitting right there doing nothing, and I think the expansion is a perfect time to actually develop into something that matters. So let's move on to aerial combat. This one is the most complicated fix, because the solution isn't just make aerial hits do more damage and call it a day. Damage scaling does need to improve. Aerial gameplay should never be a trap for players who actually want to use the weapon in the air. Right now you can execute a perfect vault over incoming attack and still get hit because the hitbox extends way beyond what you can actually see on screen. And until that gets addressed, aerial combat will always feel unreliable, no matter how much the damage gets buffed. Both problems need fixing together. Better damage scaling and better hitbox accuracy. Because one without the other just creates a different version of the same disappointment. Let's go to damage mitigation. Please give the Kinsect the ability to guard by using it as a shield, and then give us the perfect dodge, because that definitely doesn't sound overpowered at all. So Capcom, you heard it, go make it happen. But let's be real, Insect Glaive is fundamentally designed as a glass cannon. It's built for aggression and DPS. Give it a proper guard or a perfect dodge would completely break the weapon's identity. Or do you disagree? But there is one change I think would make a significant difference without breaking anything. Let hunters dodge cancel out of the strong descending slash and strong descending thrust when on the ground. Right now, if you mistime that attack, you will just get hit. There's no escape, no counter, no way out. You're committed, you're locked in, and now you're eating a full attack and losing a massive chunk of health. And on low level monsters this is fine, but with 10-star monsters you get 2 shots. But if you could dodge out, you have options. It's a small change on paper, but the impact on how the weapon actually plays would be massive. There's not much else you can do in this front. I would love a perfect dodge, but it feels so overpowered if you give that to the Insect Glaive. But what do you think? I'd love to hear in the comments whether a perfect dodge would be overpowered. The one thing I haven't mentioned yet, but I'm just gonna put it here anyway, is getting rid of the whole charging mechanic outright. Charging your glaive now gives you more damage. But the way it's implemented now, you just have to do 2 hits to fully charge it. It just feels pointless. Why not get rid of it and adjust the damage and allow you to do more combos? This will open up how you play instead of just doing the forward slash sidestep slash combo and the strong descending slash loop. It will allow the Insect Glaive to feel much freer in attacks you do instead of just cycling through 2 attacks constantly. In my mind, it just doesn't make sense to keep the charge mechanic for the Insect Glaive in its current state. In the first iteration it broke your hands and also limited the combos you could do because you needed to press and hold charge. Now you need to do 2 attacks before fully charged, which again limits the combos towards 2 attacks into strong descending slash. And yeah, I know that it's technically a choice and you can do more attacks, but you don't want to be penalized for attacking more. So there is some balancing to do on that front. Overall, I still think Insect Glaive is in a pretty good place, especially if you look at where it was compared to the start of Monster Hunter Wilds. But there is room for improvement, which will allow hunters to have an easier time picking up this weapon and keeping at it. Because underneath all the weird hitboxes, missing extracts, animation locks and aerial disappointment, it's still an incredibly fun weapon. When Insect Glaive works, it's one of the most satisfying weapons in Monster Hunter Wilds in my opinion. But I may be biased on that point. The movement feels amazing, the aggression feels amazing, and I think that's exactly why so many players want to love this weapon. But right now, the frustration and inconsistency pushes a lot of new hunters away before they ever fully enjoy what makes the weapon special. I think it just needs less friction, better extract consistency, better aerial reward, better combat flow, and slightly more forgiving defensive options. That's it. Because until my Kinsect stops going to Starbucks,
Just forget it, boss.
and I stop getting swatted out of the air like a fly, there's still work to be done. So now, if you're still with me, I want to hear from you. Did you stop playing the Insect Glaive because the controls and the mechanics? Or are you still an Insect Glaive main, suffering together with the rest of us? And if you could change one thing about the weapon in the expansion, what would it be? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that jazz, it really helps the channel out. And as always, stay sharp and happy hunting.
May your journey reward you.